Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm your host, Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward, and tonight's guest is Paige Warner.
We're really excited to have Paige Warner here. She's just a dream. Paige's song, I Don't Need Boys, has reached over 15,000 streams on Spotify, and by the time this podcast is published, I'm sure much more than that. She's got a great new single called Lions, which is totally different than anything else I've heard from her before. It's gritty and it's kind of dark. It's a lot of fun to listen to. When we're listening to her song, I Don't Need Boys, I wanted to mention that I feel like it's kind of a singular event. It's something that Paige is going through on her own, and it's coming across that way. It's not like a man bashing or a male hating type song. I think it's kind of celebrating, like, I've got a bit of freedom and choice in this moment, and I'm going to exercise that. What do you think, Marshall?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that song will resonate on so many levels with people, and it's that combined with Paige's voice, and the first time I heard her, I'll never forget it, and we'll tell that story.
Yeah.
And I've been a fan of hers ever since.
And you get to also hear her in our jingle for Bonn Park.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we're really proud to have that.
Yeah, and a couple live performances tonight as well.
Right, we're going to start with I Don't Need Boys. I don't need boys, don't need their shit. They give me stresses. I don't need boys, I don't need boys. They cause such drama, bad for my karma, run my mascara. I don't need boys, please no mansplaining. It drives me crazy, cause my brain is slaying. I don't need boys, they can keep their bromance. They don't get a third chance, cause I gave him my best. I don't need boys, boys. I don't need boys, boys. I don't need boys, I just need money. Give me a double, cause I'm a honey. I don't need boys to make $1 for my wallet. I got that covered. I don't need boys, boys. I don't need boys, boys. Why are boys always making me confused? Why are boys always making me feel used? Why are they always messing with my head? But they're still ending up in my bed. I don't need them. I don't need boys. Oh, I don't need boys, boys. I don't need boys, boys. The delayed pause. Yes, I always get like amens from the crowds in this one. Preach, amen. I'm like, I'm going to start by asking Paige and Marshall how they met.
It was about 3 years ago in the summertime. It was a beautiful summer day on a Saturday. And my family was at the St. Jacob's Farmers Market in Waterloo. It was pretty busy, and thousands of people are there on any given Saturday. And you have buskers that are positioned throughout the market maybe, I don't know, a handful of them at a time, I guess, far enough away from each other. And I've always enjoyed the buskers, you know. Sometimes the guy with some bongos or something, or also like juggling and other kind of forms of entertainment. Anyways, we were out looking at produce, and suddenly I just heard the most incredible voice just soaring over the market, and I was like, who is that? I think you had just taken your like circle on the ground, basically.
Yeah.
And you were playing Ella Henderson's Yours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. And I remember just like kind of zombie like walking towards it to see who this was. And there was already kind of a crowd listening, and it was just amazing. And everybody was really captivated by it, and just I remember more and more people coming. And Paige was so unassuming. I think you were wearing like a gray dress and like a white top.
Yeah,
And maybe
I wear that every week.
a gray like sun hat kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I had a flower on or something. Anyways, and I was just blown away by her. And I waited till she took a little break, and I walked over and said, I write a column for the Waterloo Chronicle. Can we chat? And she said, yeah. And she had a business card. She was very professional. I think you were like 18,
I love it.
right?
Oh, I wouldn't have been 18.
No,
I would have been 17, 16, I think. Yeah.
Good for you.
And so that was it. I've been following her career ever since.
Wonderful.
And I Don't Need Boys just sounds like something that should already be out there, you know.
I totally agree.
In the music world.
We're not going to give Paige a second to talk because we're just going to gush about you.
I was going to say, who needs me here? This is great. I love it.
Listen to it all day. I totally agree about like this music is radio ready, streaming ready, all ready. I was curious when you came and you were playing live, does that voice sound the same? Does it sound the same as the produced version that we hear on YouTube? And your voice couldn't be more beautiful. It's unforced. It's completely natural. The lilting sounds that you make when you're changing from one tone to another it sounds effortless. I know it's not effortless. I'm reminded of Norah Jones. I used to watch Norah Jones when she was young play, and well, you know, like on TV or on DVDs back in the day. And I used to think the sounds that are coming out of that face, and it looks like she's not breaking a sweat. How is that happening? And I've just been
It makes me want to cry.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Wow, like I can't say anything after that. I love it. I love Norah though. Wow, that's like the biggest compliment. Oh.
But I get that same feeling. It's not forced. It's of course part natural talent, but also just knowing how to use that voice without pushing it so far or trying to imitate another person's voice, which a lot of young artists would do, right? And I don't hear that. I have questions about I Don't Need Boys. Your song I Don't Need Boys. There's a line in here, they give me stress zits.
Yep.
Which I relate to so much, not just for the fact that I get those stress zits myself, and I have young teenage daughters who also do. I think it's so important to be this real and honest in music and in art and in photography right now, because we want to hear that. We want to see that. We are all trying to recover from perfect everything all the time. And it's so refreshing to hear you be honest about those things. How old were you when you wrote this song?
I actually just wrote it probably spring. So spring 2019.
So it's recent.
Yeah, it's pretty recent. Yeah, and I had a few songs that I took to my producer and showed him a few of them. Like, these are a few I wrote. And then I said before this one, like, this one, I don't know if this one's really one I could release, but I like it. Like, it was one of those one sitting kind of write things. And I showed it to him. He's like, you have to do this one. This is my favorite. You have to do it. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I hadn't really showed it to that many people, right? So I didn't know. Because it was just like me expressing kind of, at the time, silly, sassy, but very real thoughts. Yeah. So, yeah.
Isn't that where the best art comes from, though? When you're being honest and you finally get brave enough or find the right moment to share that with somebody and they can relate to it. Whether or not they're the same gender or whether or not they're thinking the same thoughts, they can relate to it just because it's real.
That's true.
I wrote down a note here quickly just because the song I Don't Need Boys also reminded me so much of, I'm going to not say her name right, but Reshma Saujani's book, Brave Not Perfect. Have you ever heard of this book?
I've heard it, but I haven't read it, though.
I was going to tell you to read it, but I don't think you need to, because this song almost everything that we're taught as young women. I'm not so young anymore, but you know, you have to be perfect. You not only do you have to be perfect and know your shit when you're showing up, but you also have to look good when you're doing it. It's and true. Make sure you don't trip or spill your coffee or say something stupid. But it's okay if we do those things because we are ready for the game, and we've always been ready for the game. And I Don't Need Boys really talks about that.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad that translated.
But maybe you should read it anyway. It's a good book.
Yeah,
For me,
I will.
When I first heard I Don't Need Boys, I had the same kind of reaction to it that when I first heard Meghan Trainor's All About That Bass.
Totally,
Is that what the song's called? It's like sassy and it's like, yes, you know, like finally people are, you know, or somebody singing about something that doesn't necessarily resonate with me, like as far as me being a 48-year-old male. Right. But I know all about what you're thinking about.
Yeah,
you know?
I relate to this.
Yeah.
This is real.
Yeah. And it was, and I'm raising 2 teenage daughters now, so I love that song.
Oh, great.
And I think it's very refreshing to have a break sometimes. I try to give my kids some musical knowledge. They've grown up with the Beatles and, you know, Violent Femmes also, and the Sex Pistols, and also, you know, like Joni Mitchell and some newer artists also. But to try and get a break from the pop that's out there. But we also, I think, really need realistic, down-to-earth, beautiful music. So have we beaten this point to death? Sorry.
Thanks, guys. I'm just sitting over here with a huge smile on my face,
take it all in. I love it.
What do you hear in your voice when you hear your voice back at this point? Like, what are you listening for, and what do you hear?
When I hear recordings back?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm my own worst critic for sure. So I'm always thinking about ways that I can improve, which is the downfall sometimes, because I do wish that I could sometimes just sit in it. But yeah, it's hard for me, like, when people ask what artist I sound like and stuff like that, it's really hard for me to choose who to reference, because honestly, like, every person I talk to is a different artist that they hear. So yeah, I don't have like a full definition, I guess, of myself, which could cause some issues. But
maybe it comes in years down the road.
Yeah.
I got to interview Ann Wilson of Heart one time, and I said, when you hear those early Heart records, what do you hear? And she says, I hear that I didn't have any restraint in my voice. I was just trying to belt those songs out as hard as I could. And she goes, it took years before I learned what restraint is. And to me, it sounds like you already have this incredible balance, you know, in terms of. Well, thank you. And I guess the people you surround yourself with too know what they're doing. Yeah. And I mean, I've been singing for a while, so I guess that's definitely the most natural thing for me. Like, playing instruments is more what I struggle with for sure. Like, I definitely want to improve, but still, like, when I'm listening to my voice, I still hear the flaws and hear what I want to improve. So yeah, there's benefits to it though. Always improving, I guess. I think that's a good point too. Like, I've done a bit of singing just for my own pleasure in my life, and nowhere near where you're at. And I really can beat myself up about those little imperfections. But isn't that what we love most about other people's music? When our favorite singer's voice cracks just a little bit on a note, or when they kind of falter when they hit another note, or when they're changing keys. We live for that stuff. That's why we love live music so much too. Right? Yeah. So I say be easy on yourself. Yeah, that's something I've been learning though, is like just trying to let my voice be natural and not having to nail everything perfectly. So yeah, it's funny you bring that up. So you say you've been singing for a while. I'd like to know more about your story. Like, how did you start? Did you start with instruments? Did you just start by singing? Or is your family musical? Because I have seen your father on YouTube singing or performing Fever with you. Yeah, that man's a talent, that's for sure. I started singing when I was pretty young. I think I found a diary a while ago that I must have been 13, 12 when I actually decided that's what I wanted to do with my life, was music. So that's when I decided that. But like, I've been singing probably since I was 6, but taking lessons since maybe 10. And I played piano as a kid, but everyone hates it and stops. You know how it goes. Yep. Picked it up again a few years ago, but everyone hates it at first. So I did that, and I definitely grew up in a really musical family. And a musical community too. Like, a lot of our friends and my parents' friends were all very musical, so I was kind of surrounded by it. So if your parents would have like a dinner party, the instruments come out eventually? Yeah, every time. I can remember when I was a teenager, every time, Paige, go sing, and I'd be like, no, and they'd be like, go sing, you can do it. I'm like, no, every time friends were over. So it's definitely an important part of our life. We had like a music room where all the music stayed, and it's very sentimental to me. And then how long have you been out there in the world with your music?
Oof. I should know the answer to this question.
Like it's just been a couple years now? Or,
well, I started gigging right after high school. Like not a lot, probably a couple gigs a year at first. And then, I'd say 2 years now it's been regular gigs and releasing music. Because my first release was May 2018. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And
Yeah.
still in your youth of creating music. I can't wait to see what comes after that.
Yeah.
With so that record was called Revealed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what was that experience like? You know, how many songs did you choose from before you decided to put down? Is it 6 original songs?
5 on that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How was that process?
That was scary. I didn't have a lot of experience, especially recording, and even performing really. And I didn't really have a picture of what I wanted myself to look like as an artist, which is okay. And I think that like over time, every artist kind of evolves and changes. So there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, I think it was really scary and I wasn't so certain in myself or what I wanted things to sound like. So, I remember being a little bit confused, a little bit scared, but just going for it because I wanted to. So, but afterwards I was really happy with it. I was happy with how it sounded. And I think I had maybe 10 songs that I was choosing between. And I kind of decided that with, sending the 10 to family and friends and being like, which are your favorite? Tell me. And also the producer that I worked with helped me with that too. So
yeah, I was going to ask about your collaborators. Like, who do you have in your life that you're able to, bounce ideas off of? And
definitely family, 100%. They kind of, they're my first audience for everything. I show them and see if it should go past that or not.
I love that.
For I Don't Need Boys though, I worked with a studio called Kingdom Studios in Cambridge. They're really great. They have a whole team there for everything under the sun you could think of that an artist needs. So the producer I worked with, Josh Polaz, he was amazing and also was kind of one of those people that because he knew more about the industry, more about the music, helped me like decide which of these two thoughts are better, or which of these two ideas are better, right? So, yeah.
In our interview, our recent one for the Waterloo Chronicle, you mentioned how you've seen this kind of movement, I guess like a wave coming in of female artists.
Mm-hmm.
There's always new male artists coming, but I found this really interesting that you saw something recently with Billie Eilish and some others you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
how there's almost more of a unique sound to what we're getting, a different kind of presentation. And I can see that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate a bit more on that, on some of those artists that you...
Yeah. I think a lot of female artists that I've been really into lately, really into their music, they've been really strong in their identity and not been wavering based on what seems to be popular, what has worked with music before. Billie Eilish is a great example. Her music is so strange and everyone loves it.
She has I care. It's not an I don't care attitude. I care, but this is who I am.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to learn with me because I'm not even sure what that means yet.
Exactly.
It's
yeah.
beautiful.
And her
It's
choice
so
of
beautiful.
clothing is just so different to everything else I've seen.
Yeah. And I
think, Sarah, you saw her in concert.
We took the girls in June, pulled them out of school and went down to Budweiser stage there in Toronto and took them. And there were a couple things going on that day that were great for me because I'm a huge fan.
Mm-hmm.
I love her music.
Me too.
Wasn't sure what to expect live, but she totally delivered.
Oh, yeah.
But then I also had this second level of, we've taken our kids to some live music before. I think we took them to Taylor Swift when they were really little. But something a little bit smaller than, say, what do we call it now? It's not the Sky Dome. Not the Rogers Center, it's the Scotiabank Arena.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, it's changed names so many times. Something a little bit smaller than that venue. And then to see my kids totally lose their shit when she got up there and started singing these songs that they've listened to in their bedrooms over and over and over again. And I just remembered that feeling. And wow, what a moment that was for them and for me.
And it's crazy because her music is so mellow recorded, but on stage, she will be jumping higher than you can possibly imagine.
Oh, I can't believe it. I don't know where
So-
she gets the energy. She's young.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like everything she just does to her best,
Yeah.
Potential.
Oh,
It's
totally.
amazing. Yeah.
I find her range amazing too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She'll shock you, huh? Yeah.
Totally.
I'm always really interested in the craft of songwriting, whether you write lyrics first or melodies or how it all comes together. Can you talk about that and how you build a song?
Yeah, I think it's different for every song. For I Don't Need Boys, that was more of a sit down and write it situation. For other ones, it's been kind of like, oh, I write a verse and then 2 months later come back to it and, oh, okay, I can kind of feel that idea, build on it a bit. I tend to write like chording and lyrics at the same time because it'll usually be like a feeling that I'm feeling. So those together kind of create the ideas. Sometimes I'll write like a single line of lyric first and then that sparks an idea. So I don't really have a consistent method, unfortunately. I wish a day to would make my life easier.
Yeah. You can sit down and schedule it, right?
Yeah, I know. It just doesn't work that way, right? So yeah, it's different every time. But yeah, and I think the song comes out different every time too. So the process is always a little bit different.
With something like I Don't Need Boys, I've heard it said that in the creative process that the true feeling of victory doesn't come when the song's completely finished, but rather when you can see that it will be finished, like kind of this moment where it's going to work. Do you have is that an experience that you have when you're writing? There's this moment where you go, oh, this is okay,
like
this
coming
is gonna
together,
work.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I think when I find a chorus or a hook that I can tell myself is catchy and is relatable, that's usually when I'm like, okay, this idea might be okay. With I Don't Need Boys, like I probably wrote the song like from start to finish, maybe added a verse a couple months later, but in one sitting. So it was more like at the end of the sitting, I was like, oh, that's okay. But like I said, I brought it to the producer later, right? And didn't really know if it was going to be great. So I think I'm a little more not confident enough quite yet to have that feeling. Yeah.
It's so catchy. It was stuck in my head for the whole day after I heard it for the first time.
Great.
And I can't imagine from your vantage point when you're writing it, that experience of realizing that you've created a hook, like that you've, and I just can't imagine what that's like to go,
oh,
you know,
I did it.
Yeah. But
It's a little bit weird.
Maybe that's really hard for you to explain. I know you're trying your best to, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I Don't Need Boys, when people started listening to it and saying they really liked it, it was kind of one of those moments where I'm like, is it supposed to be that easy though? Right? Because I sat down and just wrote it. And some songs I'll spend weeks and weeks writing and they turn out to be garbage. Like,
Yeah, but there's no right or wrong.
I know, and that's the thing.
I listened to this wonderful podcast called Song Exploder. Have you heard this before? It's beautiful. They inspect one song for an episode, and the artist will talk about how they came up with the idea, how long that idea was bouncing around on their phone, how long they let it sit there, how many ideas they might have put together, then how they recorded it. And some of them it's painful.
Oh yeah.
Some songs for them are absolutely painful, but that's a unique experience to that one situation where normally songs come kind of quick and easy to them. So
Yeah.
like, I don't think there's rhyme or reason. And even if you have a process, it seems as though in the case of I Don't Need Boys, you weren't even really sure. You just knew that you found it catchy.
Yeah.
Right?
And I wasn't even aiming to write a song, right? I was
Right.
just messing around on my guitar and singing. Like, it was a joke for the
Right.
first 30 seconds, right? And then I was like, oh, wait a
minute.
second.
Maybe that was the aha moment, right?
Yeah,
there.
that actually probably was. Yeah.
What do you think too? I'm recently find so interesting about, you know, streaming music and that the hook must come first because artists typically don't get paid on streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Past the first 8 seconds, and then there's no payment around there, and then around 30 seconds there's an actual partial payment.
Yeah.
And then you have to hear the whole song for a full payment.
Yeah.
Does that ever factor into your songwriting, or are you more just a purist at the moment?
I think at the moment, my songs and what I've done so far hasn't been big enough for me to really care,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I Don't Need Boys hit 10,000 streams, and you'd think that would be a lot, but I think it comes out to like $40.
Yeah.
So it's not really something in my brain. Like, I'm just trying to make a good song at this point because I just want everyone to hear it. I'm not really thinking about the money with the streaming as much. Yeah.
Well, hopefully it doesn't have to taint that part of the creative process.
I interviewed Jan Arden one time, and she has a beautiful Christmas song called "Make It Christmas Day," and she wrote that. She said when she was 18, you know,
Wow.
just really young, and she said what happens is once she has had her first album and there's all the success, she said as a songwriter you start to make adjustments, like without even knowing it, you are adjusting to other people's
Oh, yeah. As a writer, do you not find that you do that
and-
sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. And just, she said it's really unfortunate because she loves looking back at the music she was writing when she was Paige's age
Yeah.
and seeing how pure it was and how those things weren't even entering her mind. She had no concerns. And so
like I wasn't thinking about my agent or my producer or my audience or my fans or my listeners, like all of those things that factor in that are probably floating around like additions to your inner critic while you're writing that stuff out.
Yeah. I think those rules seemed very harsh at the beginning, but I think now some of them, at least from what I've seen, have started to relax a little bit. Like they used to always say you need a 3-minute, 10-second song or something. And then you go see a song like Old Town Road that's like, 2 minutes? Yeah. And it's one of the biggest hits of this year, right? Yeah. So I think it's just this like pendulum where there's always goes so strict and then goes so relaxed. And yeah, it's hard to find that middle ground, eh?
And then sometimes those trends will flip and swing what it is that's expected of you for the next one, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it is better just to stay true to yourself and let those songs out.
You'll be trendy at some point, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's trend.
You'll catch the swing in the right point sometime.
I had another question about the song Please Don't Look at Me, which is a piano song you pointed out. This one, I also love some honesty in this too. Like, forgive me if I screw up these words, but I just took a note here that says, when you look at me, I'm falling for you. And then there's another line that says, please don't look at me, I'll fall in love. And man, I don't know what you were thinking when you wrote that, but I have certainly had that feeling in my years on this earth where maybe it's not necessarily falling in love with a human. It could be just admiring something or admiring someone, and that feeling of being caught in your adoration of the situation or the person. Oh, that's something I think we can all relate to. That blushing moment, is that sort of where this came from?
Yeah, I wrote this in high school. I think this was one of the first songs I wrote, actually.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. And yeah, it was one of those moments where I just had this obsession with someone, and I knew that if they paid me any attention, that would be it. Because they didn't, right? They didn't pay me any attention, which in hindsight was good. But yeah, in the moment, like I wrote it because I was just like, this is me actually telling you, please don't look at me, because I know what it's going to lead to. Over the years, it's kind of evolved into like a love song where you want them to look at you, right? So it changes as the years go by. But originally that was why I wrote it. I really didn't want them to look at me.
I love that. I also love what you just said about how that song can change and evolve, being the same song as the years go on. I mean, that must be part of how musicians keep their material fresh for themselves. Yeah. But then it probably takes on a whole new tone, as you said. It's probably a different song than it was in the very onset.
Yeah, it so is. And I mean, I've written different, like I have more words and lyrics and stuff for that song. I have a whole new bridge and everything that I use now when I perform it live that does lean more towards like a happy fairy tale ending type thing, because that's more like what I connect to, I guess, in it now.
Oh, I love that. I love that you can pick it up and change it. I also love that you respect stuff that you wrote when you were a bit younger too. I always think that a lot of artists, photographers, painters, musicians, writers, poets, a lot of that stuff that comes out of those brooding teenage years when your brain isn't fully formed yet and your emotional experience up until that point won't allow for any straight talk for yourself. Like, I can handle this, I can get through this. You really just wallow in those feelings that are happening, and man, I think some of the best work comes out of that time in people's lives. True. So yeah, I think it's great that you honor that.
Oh, great.
I sound like I'm name dropping here.
Name drop away,
I got
Marshall,
to interview
we're ready.
a Canadian producer, world-renowned David Foster, a little while ago.
Oh, amazing.
Nice.
And I asked David about aging and being a songwriter.
For sure. Yeah.
And he gave me the most incredible answer to what I was trying to get at. And he said, so nobody is exempt from this. He said somewhere in our 50s, and definitely by 60, he said songwriters like him who've written some of the biggest songs in the world, he said the magic goes away. He said that goes for every songwriter on earth. It's gone. And you need to shift and figure out what else you're going to do. And that's about the time that David Foster discovered Michael Bublé, I think, and started doing with much more producing than songwriting. And we talked about, how like Paul McCartney could write the song Yesterday when he was 23 years old, and all this incredible music that comes out of young people in their teens, 20s, 30s. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about here. At a certain point, the Rolling Stones stopped writing hits, and that's what he's talking about hits, and he's not talking about quality of work. He said he thinks Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, all capable of still making great records, but they're not hits. They're not ever going to be up there with Drake and Lady Gaga and all these huge stars. He said because it goes away, it's gone, and you won't find an example of it, anywhere. That Madonna, like it stops.
I think you're totally right. I mean, I want to hear what Paige thinks about it too, but I think you're totally right because it is part of that feeling, those feelings of youth, experiencing things as you get a little bit older that you've never experienced before, growing up a little bit, finding your way in life. And then at the same time in those creative years, you're still keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening. So you're relevant to what people are plugged into. So all of those things, plus a bazillion other things that makes people creative. All of those things go into this giant soup that makes that a relevant piece of art, I think.
Yeah.
And there comes a point
I could go on forever. Elton John, Billy Joel.
Yeah. All of them.
Never again will they.
Yeah, Madonna will never produce another a virgin
Vogue.
out of her life. Like that is.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Yeah.
I'd be there for it.
I'll listen to whatever she's got to offer. But.
Ever since I had that interview with David Foster, it's really made me think about this and think about how you really should make the most of what you've got while you have it.
And that's what I was thinking. We shouldn't scare Paige into growing older at all. We should just say to embrace that time in your life so fully. It seems like you are. How do you feel about that? What Marshall has to say?
I mean, at this point in my life, I'm kind of in the stage of just like trying to let myself feel every emotion because I think the best work comes out of that. And personally, I think the best life comes out of that. And I mean, obviously I'm 21. I don't know, but I don't know if just as you're getting older, it's easier for you to harden certain things. Maybe things don't feel as intense. That's the only thing I can really see from my young age of 21. But it's true. Like, I mean, I think even from when I started songwriting to now, there is a little bit less of that spark. Which is why I always try and write songs that are slightly different than what I've done before, just to keep it fresh. But I don't know. My goal is just stay in touch with my emotions, and I'm like a 3-year-old at heart. I always tell people, so hopefully that never changes.
That's perfect. I mean, I think that's the whole key, to stay in touch with who you are.
Yeah.
At the time that you are that person.
Yeah.
And not try to be something that you're not.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
All the cover versions you've recorded on YouTube, I've seen. Do you hear something in these songs like there are big hits and songs from over the ages and newer songs, but does something happen where you think, I think I can really deliver, my vocals can be delivered in a certain way on this song, or maybe instrumentally you can bring something different? And anyways, they're amazing renditions.
Thank you.
But
thank you.
But what are you thinking about when you think, I think I'm going to cover this song and record it?
Honestly, all I think about is like if I really feel the song. Obviously I'm not gonna try and sing like a screamo song or something, even if I'm feeling it, just because I know I can't do that. But yeah, if a song, like if the emotion and the message hits me in a way that's a little bit different than other songs, then I usually will be decently confident that I can portray that, because if you don't feel the emotion of the song, it's not going to come across very well, right? So I think that's mainly what I look for. And even when I'm choosing songs for shows and stuff, it's the same. I just look for songs that I know that while I'm singing it, I'll still be able to feel the emotions that maybe the artist didn't intend to, but it's still an emotion that feels present for me. So
what are some of your faves? What are you listening to now?
Growing up, I listened to Eva Cassidy a lot and sang a lot of her stuff. My vocal coach introduced me to her, and I was hooked for a good couple years there, especially when I was first started singing. So I think my voice sometimes starts to take on qualities of hers just because that's like who I listened to when I started to train my voice. Nora, as you said, of course. Yeah. But yeah, like I grew up listening to a lot of jazz and blues. My dad was really into jazz and blues. So like especially around Christmas time, we had, jazz songs playing all the time. A lot of gospel too growing up. Now though, I would say I probably listen to R&B the most, I would say, but it's really a wide range. The past few months, I've really been listening to a lot of classics that most people should know, but I did not listen to like mainstream music when I was a kid.
Right.
So yeah, I've been having some fun finding some classics that everyone knows and I don't. I'll be at a gig and people are like, you know this song? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, you really should. And then I go listen, I'm like, this is amazing. Why did I not know this?
How did I miss this?
Yeah, like lately I've been really in love with her, Alicia Keys, of course. But then stuff that isn't necessarily the same as what I would write, but like Billie Eilish, like I said, is amazing. Love Lady Gaga, like for who she is and what she represents too as well. But yeah, it's really kind of changed a lot, I guess, since I was growing up. Haven't stuck with one thing too long.
It sounds like a pretty wide range though. You mentioned her. She wasn't on my radar at all before the Grammys.
Okay.
Last year with the Clear Fender. And I watched of course I wasn't interested in her. I was interested in watching how they made that guitar video because man, was that ever cool. And it looked like they made it right down to the wire. Like they were gluing the last piece on and stringing the last string en route to deliver it to the Grammy. I watched a Tiny Desk concert recently with her. Have you ever seen those? The NPR Tiny Desk concert.
Yeah, I love those.
They play like any artist. It can be rap, it can be metal, it can be folk, it can be just instrumental, R&B, anything. And they just play 3 songs in the NPR offices and they record them, and it's pretty cool.
Oh, I love
But
those.
I saw her and her entourage of musicians, and I was floored. It's not just the pop that you're hearing on the radio or on shows. It is a true like R&B soul collection of people putting that music on. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and her release stuff, I find everything she releases has its own separate identity, but it's still so her, and it's so her.
Yeah.
And I love that, like, and her songwriting is so good, her performing is good, and she's like Black, female, mainstream. It's just like something that you don't see a lot and the world does need to see, and coming out of, you know, being female, being Black, things that aren't as mainstream as they should be these days, right? Yeah. So yeah, she just blows me away, really.
Where all have you played live? When I listen to your music, I think how amazing it would be to sit in a soft seat, or like maybe even like the Registry Theater or something, where everybody's sitting looking forward to quiet.
Yeah.
There's no food, no drinks.
That's what I would picture too. Like, stop making noise, people.
Wouldn't that be incredible? But something tells me you've played lots of venues where that aren't like that.
Most, I would say 99%. Yes.
So we have the Market.
I started out in the Market. I don't busk there anymore because I'm old and it's too hot and I want to cry halfway through. But also mostly because I have shows on Saturdays already. That's good. That's good. Yeah. I played a lot of places in KW. Mostly bars, cafes, restaurants, some like conference type stuff, or like private parties.
And how do you put your set list together? How do you decide what you're going to play and in what order?
Yeah, so my main set list, I would say I have like 2 hours of music that is just music that I love and adore, and I wouldn't want to sing anything else. The rest is like crowd favorites, stuff that I know people like, things that I've put a different twist on. Like I do House of the Rising Sun, like a big blues version of it, which is kind of interesting. Like stuff like that where I put a twist, or I know that people recognize it so they like it, or ones that have been hits that I like as well.
When we were talking about covers earlier, I just wanted to know, like, what other covers have people really responded to that surprised you?
The one that surprised me the most is Angel Down by Lady Gaga.
Oh, really?
My sister suggested, shout out to Kaya, that
hi Kaya,
that I do that song, and honestly, I had a tantrum in the middle of it. I recorded it 5 times, broke down in tears, so upset because I was just like, I can't get it, and it was really irritating me. Recorded it another 5 times, finally got a take that I was like, oh, fine, this is good enough. I'm just gonna put it out there. That happens a lot. Love those nice little breakdowns in the middle of things. And then I put it on YouTube, and it has like, I honestly haven't checked recently, but it has a lot of views, so many likes. People love it. People are still commenting on it. And this was years ago, and I'm like, what? That's and great. It's not even a song that I would normally do, but yeah, I think it got a little bit popular because people thought there was a ghost in the background too. That might have helped.
Well, I'm gonna have to watch this one. I don't think I've watched this one. YouTube is beautiful for that because we can look down the history of your life, and this is how I found the what I mentioned earlier, the cover of Fever with your dad. How did that come to be?
I don't even remember. I mean, I did shows. Like when I first started out, he would always play for me because he's like the best pianist I know, and he can also sing, obviously, as you heard in that. But I don't know who had the idea. I think maybe we had done it live somewhere, like at some Christmas cafe or something.
Love it.
And then we decided to do it, recorded, I guess. That's so long ago, I hardly remember.
How much fun is that to play with your dad?
It's so fun, yeah. I still sometimes book shows with him just because I want to.
That's great. I love that. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah. He's very talented. Brings that little extra pizzazz that I can't do myself. So yeah.
What are you working on right now?
That was gonna be my question, Marshall.
Well, it's called Lions. It's a pretty big contrast to I Don't Need Boys, which was the plan, just to show kind of the two sides of myself. So that's being released and working on booking more shows and stuff. Probably won't release another single after this one for a while, but yeah, that's kind
it's an interesting idea to, rather than see it as a record, just record a song and release it as a single.
Yeah, I kind of like that freedom. When I released my EP at first, I really was stuck in this, you need to release a single and then release an album or release an EP, but
like successful established artists aren't even doing that anymore.
Exactly.
They're just putting out what they have as they have it, and some of them are like Billie Eilish's last album. She put out in singles until it was done, right?
I think so.
You got a song every so often until it finally compiled an album, and it must be refreshing not to be stuck.
Yeah, well,
in having to complete a work, right?
Yeah, I think because a lot of times people, when they sit down to listen to an album, which I wish this wasn't the case, but it often is, they want some sort of like very connected feeling between the songs. So I feel like
old school. That's what we're into.
Yeah. So I think that kind of like makes you have to change a lot of your songs to make them fit. Yeah. Which I did have to do with my EP, right, to make it fit. So it's nice to be able to release like I Don't Need Boys is like fun pop, sassy, it's fun. And Lines is very serious ballad that's like dark and heavy.
I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. So it's nice to be able to release those two because they would not go on an album together, right? But I like being able to be like, this is me and this is also me, and they're unrelated but so related at the same time, right?
That's really liberating to be able to just do
Yeah.
that without focusing on being this cohesive body of work that
even
has
with
to all
visual art, right? Like sometimes Marshall has many collections of art. Your paintings that are in Kitchener City Hall, that is a cohesive set of work together. What would that have looked like if you were just focusing on one, like, or what size would it be? What would the context be? What would
I
the
love this
difference
idea.
be?
Yeah. And you do have the freedom to do the album too if you want, right? So it's kind of like you choose what
There's
you want.
no rules anymore.
Yeah,
I
well, that's
think
what
you're
saying earlier. Like, it's just there's so much out there, and I think audiences are so ready to just like welcome new ideas and new ways of doing things. So it's kind of freeing.
And young people aren't listening to albums. They're not necessarily, like we said earlier, listening to the whole song. If you're unlucky, hopefully they're listening to whole songs. But they're not really looking for an album.
No, and I mean, I'm definitely one of those awful people that doesn't sometimes listen to the whole album, and that's just like. That's how life is these days, right?
Everything
everything moves so fast.
Exactly.
And attention spans are short.
I guess we did that somewhat with our mixed tapes that we would make.
It was all about the mixtapes.
Yeah. Like one Cyndi Lauper song, right? And then a Kiss song or something. And then
See, everyone wanted it
was
then
on
too.
every one of my mixtapes.
Everyone wanted that too. They just, didn't publicize it like that.
So we were making our own Spotify playlist, but we were doing it on plastic and vinyl.
That's real dedication.
That's dedication.
Something I really liked that you said in our interview for the Waterloo Chronicle, and this didn't make it into the column, I don't think, but the artists that you are enjoying today, these female artists are also they're doing important work as well for gender equality. And equality for everybody.
Yeah.
Really. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
I think personally, because music is such an expression of what you're feeling, I think a lot of that comes up these days and like what your inner thoughts are. And like just having those female artists that are like strong feminists and they're very vocal about it is so refreshing and so good for the world and society and everything. Because as much as it kind of sucks that they're always in the limelight, they're all right there in front of your face. Like you can't ignore it. So people that are using that space to bring messages that everyone needs to hear. That's my goal. Just getting to the point where you can share that positivity and share equality and everything like that, because I think that's something that the world is in desperate need of. When everyone's listening to this in 20 years, you've made it, hopefully.
You've made it. I think that's very insightful at 21 years old. It's true. All that really matters is to as far as I'm concerned, is to work hard at what you love and to be nice to people.
Yeah.
And to bring a little bit of happiness to other people. That's all we've got. And if everybody did a little bit of that.
It's true. Like
know?
everyone just improved himself 1%. Imagine how amazing the world would be.
I wanted to ask just about creativity. Does it come and go for you when it regards to songwriting? Are there times where you just feel like there's nothing there? And,
Definitely.
And then how do you find your way back to?
Yeah, I find that, I mean, and all areas of my life are kind of like this. I'm kind of a sprinter. And what I mean by that is like, I could have 3 months where I feel so creative and I write all of my songs for that year in those 3 months. The 3 months after that, all I want to do is business. So I focus on the business side. 3 months after that, all I want to do is the visual side. So I'm just focused on like marketing and getting my brand together, getting my fashion together, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of work in chunks like that. Sometimes like obviously there's crossovers, but I really find that my mind just gets in one thing and I'm just like going at it. So yeah, but
I think that's a highly productive way to tackle those things.
Yeah.
But maybe you get bored of one and you want to take a break.
Yeah.
But you end up being more productive, I think, because if you're trying to multitask all those things at one time, you're never really doing any of them well. You're just doing them all.
Yeah, because
right?
your brain's going back and forth. Yeah. And I think I've always been like that, which is why I knew I could never get a desk job. So having that change is so healthy for my brain. I just feel alive and happy. And yeah, I wouldn't really want to change it.
Tell us about The Shot.
Yeah, so I auditioned for the show, The Shot, in the spring, and it was just like a video online audition, and I got through to the first round. Didn't really know what to expect. I'd looked up a bit about it, and I was like, okay, this, could be something. I'm not really sure. And I showed up to the auditions, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is actually legit, because most of the contests I've done so far have been like town contests, which are amazing. Nothing against those. Those are literally like... started my career.
Like at an outdoor fair kind of thing?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Totally.
That's great.
Yeah, I gotta love those. And I showed up and there was like cameras everywhere and people, and I'm like, I recognize that person. Like it was kind of one of those things where you're like, I should have worn a better outfit. One of those moments.
Did I brush my hair today?
Yeah. I probably didn't. I don't brush my hair most days, to be honest. So I made it through to the final round, and then got cut right before like the final 4 were chosen, which was like the same finale day. So
that's pretty good though. Those are pretty good numbers.
Oh yeah. I don't have like any negative feelings about that at all. I was just like so happy to have made it that far, and everyone there, all the people that ran the show and all the contestants were all so nice. Like I came out with so much more than I went in with, so many more relationships.
So it wasn't like a cutthroat competition. It was more like we were lifting each other. You were sharing notes.
Honestly, like when I saw how legit it was, I was like, oof, this could be a little rough, but everyone was so nice. Like we would be all just chilling in the green room, just like laughing and singing songs together and writing. And we were all just like, just like so there for each other, which was great. Because even some small competitions I've been in have been a bit cutthroat.
Right.
So seeing that in a big kind of setting gave me a little bit of hope for humanity.
It must be encouraging. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
So once we have information about The Shot, we'll link to that in the show notes. I just want to talk to you about songwriting because I write songs that no one hears. That's how I prefer it.
Yeah.
But I have this process that's like, I don't sit down to write.
Okay.
I don't think of a concept and then write. It's just, it's here now. And if I don't write down these words right now, they're going to be gone forever.
Yep.
And then music comes after the fact. I never have a melody or music that comes with that. And I was wondering if you've ever gone through anything like that before.
Yeah, I've written like just verses at a time. I usually don't write the whole song like that. But yeah, I get what you mean. Like you got to write it down in that moment or else it's
gone forever.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's not. Well, my memory's not that great anyway.
Me neither.
I can remember what someone was wearing or what they smelled like 20 years ago. But anything that matters, like grocery list,
the date someone told you yesterday, it's gone. Yeah,
nothing. It's totally gone. Or that thing I was supposed to do. Totally gone forever.
Yeah, walk into a room like, what was I doing here again?
But also part of that process for me is if I go back and edit it later, it's no longer what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Do you ever go through anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I have to leave stuff until, like, if I say I have an hour after work in the evening that I'm like, I want to work on some songwriting, I'll usually go through all my notes and whichever one touches me in that moment, then I work on it because then that emotion is usually present.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, because sometimes if I try and force myself to go back and the emotion that I was feeling when I first wrote that line or that chorus, that beat, whatever, if it's not there, then it's not going to work. because I'm in this motion trying to like merge them.
I'm thinking of, are you familiar with Regina Spektor? But I was once listening to an interview of hers where she was talking about songwriting and sitting down to write a song. To her, the idea of doing that was like disgusting. Like, what an insult to her creative process. So I think between that and this quick conversation, it's very clear to me that that there is no one process for people. Just like I was talking about that podcast Song Exploder earlier. Whatever comes out of that, and there's really no rules or rhyme or reason to get to that point.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think even within one person, it can be different every time too, right? So
I think so. Yeah, mine always seems to be that. But then again, I'm not on YouTube, so.
You could be.
Oh, yeah, right.
I'll be watching for that.
Where all can people find you online?
Oh, yes. People can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Paige Warner Music, or my website, paigewarner.ca. I'm most active on Instagram, so if you actually want to see stuff, go on there. Yeah, true.
Thanks for playing some live music for us.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
That was wonderful. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. This was super fun.
Oh, it was. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Before Paige performs her last song called From the Start, we just want to share this message with you. This month, we are using our ad space to recognize local charities and nonprofit organizations. Now, as a Meals on Wheels volunteer myself, Community Support Connections is very near and dear to my heart. Here's a message from Community Support Connections representative Rosalind Horn. At Community Support Connections, the caring actions of volunteers make all the difference in the lives of our clients. Delivering healthy meals, offering a ride to an appointment, providing a social lifeline. There are so many ways you can help. Apply at communitysupportconnections.org to help older adults and adults with different abilities live in their own homes with independence and dignity. Community Support Connections, caring for our community at home.
Wear your leather jacket on the first date, telling stories like we're in the 6th grade. Drinking wine straight from the bottle, you ask me to stay, I say I'll only stay a while. Your eyes dance and smile with nerves lust so wild. Can we just stay a while? Arms around me like a child. You're smart, you know what you want. You wanted me from the start. Me from the start. You're smart, you know what you want. You wanted me from the start, me from the start. You tell me about empty drawers, unopened gifts for her. The giant bear you saved, to your angel came your hands in my hair. Tell me what you want and where. I'm already in your future from now until forever. You're smart, you know what you want. You wanted me from the start, me from the start. You're smart, you know what you want. You wanted me from the start, me from the start. You make me feel hope. You make me feel fear. Hope that love can be real. Fear that it's a fantasy. You're smart, you know what you want. You wanted me from the start, me from the start. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We vow to see the world. You say I am your girl. You take
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.